You'll probably recognize this shelf. It's one of my favorite shelves that I own. It's my Fantasy Flight Arkham Horror Files shelf. These games are so much fun. It's a tight universe of characters that you know and love by playing all the different games, from Mansions to Arkham Horror to Eldritch Horror to Arkham Horror, the card game, to Elder Sign. You know these characters. They even have novels and books about these characters, and they're good. I actually enjoyed it. Graham McNiledge wrote one. Very, very fun, just kind of in this Arkham world of the Cthulhu Lovecraft universe. So it's cool because it's tight, self-contained universe. You've got Jenny Barnes, Roland Banks, the dude with the Australian guy with the harpoon. I mean, that's awesome, right? But we're talking about a new addition today, a new installment to the Arkham Horror Files, and it's pretty important because it carries the name. It's the namesake, as it were, of this whole series. That would be Arkham Horror. Wait a minute, what edition is this? Well, it doesn't say 3rd edition on here, but this is Arkham Horror 3rd edition. And I have a theory about this because X-Wing doesn't say 2nd edition either. But you'll notice Mansions of Madness says Mansions of Madness 2nd edition. I almost feel like there's a sense of this is it. This is Arkham Horror. This is X-Wing. There is no other X-Wing. There is no other Arkham Horror. This is Arkham Horror. So don't worry about the editions thing. And then again, maybe 3rd edition sounds kind of wonky on a box. But this is a game with history, a game with pedigree, and a game with all sorts of twists and turns. That this version, well, I don't want to tell you what it does just yet. Let's look at how it plays different than the old version, which I happen to have sitting right next to it. And let's see how you, what do you do in this game that makes it worth upgrading from 2 to 3? Or, true story, from Eldritch to Arkham 3. That's really this. That's really where this is going. Now again, we'll talk about all that in the final thoughts, but just keep that in mind. It's a jump from this to this, or from this to this, or from these to this. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's find out how it plays right now. On the table, come back up, look at it, talk about all the different things involved with this game right now. So, here we go, Arkham Horror 3rd edition. Got the Arkham Horror, the card game mat out there just for some nice color. You'll see why in the final thoughts, because I've already shot those. Let's take a look at how it sets up right now. Well, that's a mess. Let's clean this up just a little bit. Like, there's just too much stuff, okay? I know it looks cluttered right now. We're going to move some of this stuff out of the way. Just want to show you a few first starting things. You take your, now this is the first one it recommends out of the Learn to Play guide, so there's no spoilers here because it's the first one you're going to play. This is the approach of Azathoth. Tells you the story so far. Nice art. Tells you where you start with your characters, so the train station. So Miss Reyes, Daniela Reyes starts right over there, and whoever else you'd play as. But I picked her because I haven't played as her yet because she's a new character. I don't think she's in any of the Mansions or Arkham or anything like that yet. So she's here, and we'll talk about what she comes with in just a minute. Tells you special things when the reckoning happens. Then it tells you how to set up the board. So notice that we've set the board up in this same way. These 3 spaces on top, and then the bridges that go across them. Not every single time these will connect, but in this one it just so happens. It also tells you where to put a few special things like Doom, as well as a couple bad guys that are already out on the board. We're not going to do that right this second, but just know that happens. There are 2 things out here that do not come with Arkham Horror 3rd edition. That would be this cloth bag, which you can get from Fantasy Flight. They didn't pay me to say that, but I just thought I'd tell you anyway because I love it. And these dice. These are the Arkham Horror dice. I want to say Fantasy Flight put these out, but even if Fantasy Flight didn't put them out, you can still get them on cool stuff, places like that. The 5s and the 6s already have an Elder Sign on them, so you're not even looking for numbers anymore. You're just looking for Elder Signs. Wow, that was bad. So if you see this, it doesn't really matter so much it's 5 or 6 unless you're cursed or blessed. But they also sell dice for that. But if you don't want to do that, just look for the numbers at that point. But those 2 things do not come with it. Normally you would just get some black dice like these. You're looking for 5s or 6s, but these just look so good with the Elder Sign that shows up. So those 2 things. This is the bag that has all of your tokens. What tokens am I talking about? Well, this is borrowed a little bit from the Arkham Horror card game. Inside of here, all these different tokens that do, excuse me, I'll take these out, do different things. You're going to reach in after you've done all your actions and encounters in the Mythos phase, and you're going to pull 2 tokens out of this bag. Now, they can be things like clues or doom or the reckoning effect, which is when You see that symbol, you do the effect that was on that card there. It might be things like spawn a monster, gate burst. This is where doom expands in your areas, right? Headlines, so when you do a headline or a clue, I'll talk about clue in a minute, but when you do headlines, you draw a headline card up there. You read it out. It might be a new rule. It might be a new rumor. It might be a quick test you have to do. There's doom there, clues there. What you'll do is you have this encounter deck, which I really like. Notice this looks a lot like the city area cards, but it's not. You have these encounter cards that all match the title here, Approach of Azathoth. These are where your clues come from. This is how you spread doom. This is where the gate burst happens. So you notice they're all done by neighborhood. So let's just say you drew the clue token, where you would put this right here, East Town, into the actual neighborhood deck for East Town, which is right here. I didn't spread them out because there's just too many, and obviously more will be coming one day. So you take the top card of East Town and the clue one, and you shuffle them together, mix them all around, and then you just leave it on top of the East Town deck. So within the next 2 turns, someone's going to get, so not this turn, someone's going to draw this clue card, and then you'll have the potential to gain that clue off the board, which obviously, if you played any of the Arkham Horror games, the Eldritch Horror games, any of those clues, except for Mansions of Madness, ironically, clues are important in beating the mission, so you have to have that. So your encounter deck is very important because it does this as well. So when you when you pull a card to spread doom, or you pull a doom token, you pull the back card, you then put doom wherever there's a doom symbol out on the board. Now, the doom is kind of like pandemic, and this is exciting to me because now I'm not going to show you the insides of these bags, but there's different tokens. These are the doom and clue tokens. They're front and back. These are your focus tokens. But doom out here on the board, depending on what rules are in your codex, and I should mention real quick the codex, it's a 40 card deck that at the beginning of the mission it will tell you which cards to pull out of the codex to put into your rule area up there. So the codex in this one gets cards 2 and cards 3. So that would be anomalies and deja vu. Deja vu is more the story card that tells you how to beat the first part of the mission. Anomalies is this special rule that is very much like pandemic, to where instead of if you ever have more than 3 doom in a space, or an entire neighborhood has more than 5 doom, you no longer put doom there. You would put it onto the scenario card, which will eventually cause this to potentially flip and make bad things happen. Obviously, you don't want the red side to flip. You want it to flip because of the green rule up there. If you get that prerequisite met, you'll put an anomaly token out somewhere, and you'll no longer do encounters from that area. You'll do encounters from this deck of anomaly cards here, and these are temporal fissures. These are they're all different ones based on the scenario, so there are 3 different types here. You'll put whichever one it calls for. It calls for this one first. Now you'll notice here, you will resolve the encounter based on the amount of doom in the space, and we'll talk about what that means exactly when it has doom in the space. So now, obviously you have money you can buy items with. I didn't even set out the items. These are remnants. They're basically an extra currency that you can potentially buy things with as well. Your sanity and health points are there. Let's talk about what your character starts with. First of all, they start with their stats. So here we have Daniela Reyes, 3 lore, 3 influence, 1 observation, 3 strength, and 3 will. So she's pretty good and well-rounded. She's not good at observation, but she's good at everything else. Focus limit of 3, which means you can only focus up 3 of these at a time. You can't focus more than that. Once you reach that limit, you can switch out what you want to switch for, though. She starts with $3, Gabrielle, and the Ace of Swords or the Wrench. Now the reason that's important is because everyone has their own set of personal starting cards, and this I like very much. So you're not rooting through trying to find a specific card to start the game with. You pick the 3 out of here for this character. So she has the Ace of Swords, Gabrielle, and the Wrench. So she starts with Gabriel or Gabrielle. It's a motorcycle, so I'm not really sure. Instead of the normal move action, you may move up to 3 spaces. So she is very fast. She can speed up on a motorcycle. And you pick one of these 2 items. So the Ace of Swords is when you spend a focus to reroll a die, you may recover 1 sanity. I like that. This one says you get +1 strength as part of an attack action. You get a +3 if you have a free hand. So it's kind of a perk to having a one-handed weapon. Notice that the items out here have 1s and 2 hands, and I'll show you that in just 1 second here as we look at the item cards. 1 and 2 hand limits for weapons. Basically that you only have 2 hands, so you can either have this in one hand and something else in the other that has the 1 hand symbol, or you could have a 2-handed item, much like, well, let's see if I can find one. There we go. Like the Otherworld Codex, which will really help you on the ward action. But that's all the item type cards. You have curio items and specialty items as well, so it'll tell you to go in here and find specialty items. They are typically better things that help you. the cool thing is, in the bottom of these item cards and ally cards, you'll notice that they have health and sanity. Instead of assigning the damage and health to you when someone attacks, you can assign it to your ally or to your item. So it potentially stretches your own life out of there. So it's a really, really cool idea that I'm fond of. And if it's in any of the previous games, I'm not familiar with it, so don't fault me on that. These are the spells. Spells can also be bought. That's why they have a cost up in the top, but they have what they do here. Now, it's not like Mansions where you flip it over and find out what you do with it. You actually just do the spell, and it'll tell you what it does if it's negative. Over here is the monster deck. Now, this is different, right? Monster deck, much, much different than the monsters in normal Arkham games. The way this works is you have a ready side and a fatigue side or exhausted side, and you have all these different monsters. The scenario will tell you what to stack your deck with out of all the different monsters here. Now, it tells you how much health and sanity they do when they attack you. So he does no damage, but he does 2 sanity. This is how much health they have, and it tells you if there's a modifier to your dice when you roll against them. When they spawn, it tells you where to spawn them at the most doom, and it tells you how they move. Some of them are elusive, which means he doesn't like to attack anybody. This one, on the other hand, is patrol. He'll move toward unstable space, engage most clues. So he will. Some of these will move towards people. Some of them will move towards places. It all depends on what they do. And so when you spawn an enemy, you're not entirely sure what they'll do to you. So blessed obviously lets you roll more dice. This lets you roll less dice, or it lets you have successes on higher and lower numbers. Dark packs are cool because they give you a potential benefit if you take them typically. So what does the turn look like? So first of all, there are 4 phases. There's the action phase, the monster phase, the encounter phase, and the mythos phase. What happens on the action phase is you can move up to 2 spaces, and you can spend $1 per extra space you want to move. So you could potentially move 4 spaces for $2. You can gather resources, so you gain $1. You can focus, which means you can bump up one of those skills of your choice up to your limit. Ward. Now this is cool. So when Doom is out there on the board, you're going to try to pandemic that Doom out of there and get it out of the game. So your goal is to obviously not let this card flip over based on Doom tokens. So one way to do that is by spending your turn by rolling some dice and trying to get that ward those Doom tokens out of there. The way you do that is you roll against your lower number. So you would roll 3 dice, and you would see your successes, and the amount of successes you have is how many Doom tokens you can remove. If you remove 2 or more Doom tokens, you can in fact take a remnant. You can attack an enemy, so if you're engaged or you want to engage an enemy in your space, you can test your strength, deal damage equal to the test result, plus any kind of modifiers you get. You also can evade by checking your observation to disengage and exhaust that monster. So when you evade, that monster will not move and attack that turn. Doesn't work on giant, massive ones though. Research. It lets you take clues from your card and put it onto the scenario sheet, because a lot of times you'll have to have cards on the scenario or tokens on the scenario sheet to spend them. Trade is where you can trade stuff with each other, and then component actions would be some cards have actions on them that you can do. This is weird though. You can perform each action no more than once per turn, which means you cannot move twice, you cannot attack twice, you can't ward twice. So it's kind of tricky how it spaces that out. So that's your action phase. Your monster phase happens, so monsters will move based on what their movement says. They'll attack whoever they're engaged with, they'll engage someone they're in the space with, and they'll fight. If they're exhausted, they will ready. The encounter phase happens. Now this is obviously everyone's favorite part of the game because it's totally crazy what can happen. So let's just, oh, that's supposed to go over here. Let's see. So we have north side right here. The train station. You would flip over this card, read the train station entry. A stranger begins talking with you as if they know you. You gain 1 ally. Well, that's a great card right there, already first off the bat. Now these, oh, sorry, this is another clue, and I've done that twice. Let's pull one of these here. North side. A woman steps off the train and waves at you. You try to remember who she is. Test your will. If you pass, you sense that you can trust what she tells you, and you will soon become the savior of the world. You become blessed. If you fail, she was just waving at someone behind you. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So you read those cards out. Gosh, I gotta make sure there's no more clues in here. That's crazy. But you read those cards out, and then you do the whatever test it tells you to do, and then everyone does that, finishes their turn, and then you go on to the mythos phase, which is where you draw tokens out of this cup. These are bad, really, really bad. That's a gate burst. It means that Doom just explodes all over the place. But you notice you're not closing gates and all this sort of stuff, the things that could bog you down. The only thing that can really bog you down is if you get too much Doom out there and you have to spend turns getting rid of the Doom instead of going, oh crap, I needed to fulfill this thing for the mission, or I needed to go buy a weapon, or I needed to go do this. So just know that there are still ways to slow you down, but a lot of that has been mitigated into a more fun way where it doesn't feel like it's just kicking you in the teeth constantly over and over and over and over and over again. So that's how you play the game right there. Let's come up, figure out, after seeing how you play, what you do, what do we think about this game, how it stacks up against all the others in the series. So that's it. That's Arkham 3rd Edition. I love this game. Now, again, you say, Brian, you're slightly biased because you like all of these games. You like all the Arkham Horror file games. Yes, I do. But this one does something that I wasn't expecting it to do. Honestly, I was expecting it to just take Arkham Horror and upgrade. Now, I shouldn't have done that because Nicky Valens does a great job of designing games, but I just had this sneaking suspicion it was going to be Arkham Horror 2.0, and you know, all the stuff that's come to be known in it over the years, all the bulkiness, the heaviness, the mechanics that are good but just needed just a little bit of tweaking. And again, it's not so much they needed tweaking. It's anachronistic to go back and try to fix a 13-year-old game with 2018's board game mindset. I mean, the industry's exploded, right? So don't be anachronistic when you go back and criticize Arkham Horror, right? Just cut it some slack in that sense. It's a fantastic game. Eldritch Horror came along. Corey Kaniska and Nicky Valens tweaked a lot of the things that happened in Arkham Horror and made this globe-spanning version of the Arkham Horror feel, where you go around and you try to solve the problems on the globe. Cthulhu's coming. Now, I heard a lot of people talking in reviews their issue with Eldritch Horror, and it actually is my issue with Eldritch Horror too, and I love the game very much, but the issue I have with Eldritch Horror is you feel too detached from the real problems at hand. It doesn't feel immediate enough. And I know that you're getting these cards that tell you all the stuff that's going on, but it feels weird to go to New York and get a card versus the Orne Library versus the Observatory. And it's weird to me how that 1 degree of separation really makes Arkham Horror actually, to me, more exciting storytelling wise. Then again though, there's this Arkham Horror, the card game. Brian, why are you holding this up? Yes, it's called Arkham Horror, but that's an LCG. It has nothing to do with this. Or does it? Absolutely. You saw the token bag, the Mythos bag. That's straight out of Arkham Horror, the card game. The Mythos bag, instead of a Mythos deck, instead of an app telling you what to do, you have these tokens that you reach in and draw out of the bag. But since you know there's only 15 or 14 tokens in there, you know what's in there. You know what's coming. You have a better idea of how to deal with Mythos ahead of time, because you could look and go, wait, doom, clue. The gate burst hasn't happened yet. This could be bad. And then I love the fact that it takes it doesn't call them agenda and threat. It takes those decks, though, that you get in Arkham Horror, the card game, for each mission, and it basically makes it in the codex. The codex system is so good because it branches the story, but it does it in such a way where it almost feels like Time Stories, or feels like one of the Unlocked series, another Asmodee game, but it feels like it adds just that little bit of mystery. Now again, I've only played through each mission once. I haven't played back through the missions, so I don't know if you're losing something in the fact that you know what's coming, but I do know this. I know that it feels so exciting figuring out, okay, wait, we add this card to the codex, we add this card to the codex, and the tweaked rules. So each game you get slightly tweaked rules for the same components based on what the codex has, and I think that's brilliant. Excellent job with the codex. And obviously, having a codex, having these kind of more mysterious missions means that more missions will be coming in expansions. And this would be where in the past you kind of got Azathoth, you kind of got Nyarlathotep or something like that as just a villain. It kind of changed the story. This one completely changes it. Changes how you play, changes the map, changes what you do, changes what you do to different things on the board, how you interact with things. It changes, the rules of certain components. It just changes a lot of things. And so it's exciting to see that codex system be added in there, because maybe you beat something early enough where you don't flip over card number 40. We didn't. And you die quickly. But that's there's so much to talk about in this game. This is why this Final Thoughts is going to be a little bit longer than normal, but it's so much to talk about, but it borrows so perfectly. Not borrows, you can see the ancestry, that's a better way to put it. You can see the ancestry of all these games boiled down into Arkham Horror, the 3rd edition, and I love it. I think it is fantastic. It is the definitive version of this, and this is a separate animal. Again, it borrows from it, but it's the definitive version of these two games, absolutely. And I do love the globetrotting, don't get me wrong, but I would like to see Arkham Horror 3rd edition poured back into Eldritch Horror a little bit and tightened some of the things in it, because there are a lot of and this is what I like. For instance, let's talk mechanics here for a second. In Arkham 3, you can focus as an action, which is great, and that was added back into Eldritch Horror, obviously. You can just get $1 instead. Remember, if you prepared for travel, you had to go, wait, do I want to travel for sea or rail? And you had to kind of think about it, and it felt like a bit of a waste of an action. Also, the action phase feels more actiony to me than the action phase of Eldritch Horror does, where everything's hinging on the encounter phase. Where you can feel like you can set yourself up a lot better for the action phase, for the encounter phase by doing stuff in the action phase. And I really like that. I like how combat works. I like the enemy deck. I like the fact that it's a deck. Now, some people are going to probably say, well, Bryan, what about all those wonderful plastic miniatures Fantasy Flight has? Well, technically, you can still throw them on the board, and you can just engage yourself with the cards if you have them. Like, I have a lot of them from Mansions of Madness. I'm not going to dig through them, though, because that's honestly one of my problems with Mansions of Madness is it's hard to dig through and find these things when you need them on the board, which is another great comparison to Mansions. Now, Mansions is kind of like the Imperial Assault version of this universe, so it's a little different. It's more adventure-y than board gamey, but there's a certain thing that Mansions of Madness, and I love it, but it drives me a little bit crazy trying to go and find, okay, do we need this map piece or this enemy? What about that? We need to pull that map piece. No, it's the other study. It's the other library. It's the one with the desk facing to the right. So it takes a while. This one, once you set the game up, you're done. There's no more setup. There's no more rooting through and finding things. You have to quickly find cards out of the codex. That's just, you're done. There's not a lot of finding and searching, so I really like that. I love the mechanics in this game. I love the art. Obviously, the art is fantastic. And the board itself. Now, I'll tell you one thing I don't like, but I do like the mechanics of. And so I'm hoping Fantasy Flight, and I'm sure they will, I'm hoping they come out with a player mat. I actually don't like seeing through the board. That bothers me a little bit, and I don't know how to fix that other than maybe just doing a player mat that can somehow seamlessly blend in the background. But I don't like seeing through the board, and again, that's petty, I'm aware, but it's weird to me to look through and see through the board. But I do like the art of the board. The buildings are fantastic. The art is awesome. It looks so good. It's just jarring to me to be able to see through it. So I like the fact that it's a multi-type set. You can set it up differently every time you play, and that's gorgeous to me. I love any kind of versatility like that. So having the ability to have that versatility and versus a static board here and here really lends a lot of credence to just versatility in the game. But it also, think about this, Fantasy Flight, horror in the title, expansions are coming. There's no doubt, right? One of the things is the expansions for Eldritch Horror under the Pyramids and Mountains of Madness, you got a sideboard. Well, now you don't have to have a sideboard necessarily. You can have a board or a piece that just locks into the board here. So you don't feel like you have this extra piece off to the side. You can probably just lock it in as a sideboard, but it still feels like it's part of the map. So I do like that. And I'm sure that's coming. I'm sure there will be, this is my guess. You heard it here first. My guess is there will be some of those little bridge pieces or street pieces that are like take a train or take a plane or something like that, and you'll slap it on and put it to like Kingsport or Egypt or something like that, maybe, or whatever it is in the Arkham Horror universe that you're going to go explore. There will be ways to do it like that. That's my total prediction. Again, these final thoughts are long, rambling, all this sort of stuff, but it's because there's so much to talk about. You're talking about a game that has been around for decades, right? Arkham Horror. And each time it gets better and better and better. A lot of the bolts are tightened. A lot of the kinks are worked out. And by third edition, it just feels so clean, right? Like you know what you're getting. When you go to this space, it's a good chance you know what you're getting. It's not quite as random and like, man, I hope we pass. There are a lot of things to mitigate the luck, right? So you can spend your focus tokens to re-roll a dice instead, even if you fail. Like if you fail using it to give you the amount of dice, you can spend that token. Well, now you don't have the focus token anymore, but at least you have another roll of the dice. So you still feel the doom, you still feel the dread, especially when you're pulling those tokens out and you think, please don't pull that gate burst out, right? But the doom, the dread, the fun is still there. The art is there. The mechanics are tight. They're very, very tight. The encounter phase is great. It's exciting to read those cards with each other. I like the way the clues come out where you shuffle them into one of the top two cards. I like the way that the clues are gotten based on the space they're on. So it's not random in a sense where, so I'm standing on the observatory, but the clue card comes out. Well, it's totally different. It's something I wasn't expecting. No, the clue card for the observatory still is the same type of requirement that you would need to do the regular observatory space. And so I think that's really smart. That was a really good thing to me, to know that you can still plan to get that clue in the best way for you to get it. If you've got a lot of money, you can do it on a space that has money as the cost instead of brains or lore or something like that. So a lot of thoughts on this game. I love it, love it, love it. I will continue playing this all the time. It is fantastic. And again, some people are like, why does a game need expansions? I love expansions, and I cannot wait to play more Arkham Horror 3rd Edition. So all the missions are fun. They're all really cool. The way they set up the board differently. They have good starting, great old ones to pick from. So that's really fun, and I can't wait to see what's coming next. So I'm Brian Drake here on the latest retro, talking a ton about Arkham Horror 3rd Edition because the game is so good and you need to go buy it. If you like anything in the Arkham Horror files, you need to get this game. I absolutely love it. And here's the thing, it's different enough from Mansions of Madness to own both of these. So we for instance, 2 nights in a row we played Mansions, one group of friends, and then Carl and I played Arkham the next night, and it didn't matter. You're not getting the puzzles that you get in Mansions. You're not getting the deep-seated mystery that you're getting in Mansions, but you're getting a much more strategic board game in Arkham Horror. And it's very, very fun. So those who don't like app integration, Arkham Horror is definitely for you. So I'm Brian Drake here on the latest retro on the Dice Tower. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out our other videos that we have. We've got 140-something videos here on the Dice Tower. Of course, immediately as I say that, that number is now obsolete. But you got a ton of videos here on the Dice Tower. We love the Dice Tower. We love being here on the Dice Tower. So make sure to check out our other videos here on the Dice Tower. I'll put the link in the comments below, or in the description below. But I'll see you next time right here.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is